There is. Absolutely. We'll get you a link to all that. And it's been some good discussions. You know, we've talked about everything from branding to direct deals and everywhere in between. So this is just sort of a forum. I mean, I'll share some stuff today, but it's a forum for us to all help each other grow. Basically, it's a family getting together to figure out how we can all be better and how we can win more.
Wonderful. Look forward to it.
Awesome. Hey, there's Scotty. Hey, Scotty, how you doing, brother?
I'm kind of feeling like I should have been in a car or something.
I know. We need somebody on a ship or something. I'm in a hotel room in LA. So I guess I'm curious now where everybody is. So Ryan, where are you? And Scotty, where are you guys driving from and to?
Hey guys, I am driving from Los Angeles to San Diego.
Nice.
And I'm driving to Irvine, California.
Wow, we're all pretty close. I'm up in Huntington Beach today for an engagement.
Nice.
It's all good.
I'm in Toronto today.
Such a great city.
And I'm in Northern Virginia.
Hey,
All
Dennis.
right,
Josh, big news, I guess, out of Detroit in terms of getting out of administration, huh?
Yeah, you know, we the whole Detroit thing I could chat with you about for hours. You know, we obviously went through this bankruptcy, which everybody thought was like the worst thing ever. Like, oh my God, the city's bankrupt. The city was bankrupt 20 years prior. We just never declared it.
Mm.
So despite the pain and media attention that created, it was actually a really positive thing because it kind of allowed us to clear out this $18 billion unmanageable debt load and get on with the hard work of rebuilding the future. The other thing is it created stability for investors. So the investors were very shy to come on in because they said, well, we don't know what's going to happen. Once they cleared the decks, it actually made way for a massive amount of both federal, governmental investments and private investments. So it was actually a really positive thing, despite the the headlines for our hometown.
Yeah, no, I took it as a positive, at least my reading. But I mean, quite a story. And over a beer, I look forward to enjoying that story. We used to go to Detroit a lot. I am Canadian, and so for hockey and for many different reasons. And so I'm excited to see it kind of back on its feet and finding its way.
Awesome. All right, well, let's dive in here, everybody. I was thinking about today, and I thought we'd have a little bit of discussion up front, but probably less so sort of teaching and more so interacting. I thought what an amazing opportunity, since we're all here live, to actually use this as an interactive session for doing drills and helping each other in real time get better. So I was just going to make a couple quick comments from the road here. It's been a little crazy. This week I have 5 engagements. Last week was 4. The week before was 5. The week before I may have hit a new record. I did 11 flights, 15,000 miles. I was in transit for 63 and a half hours. And what else did we do? 2 red eyes back to back. The earliest I got to a hotel room was 1:30 a.m. But we hit almost $200,000 in revenue for the week, so it wasn't all bad.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
A little nutty, right? The life and times of being on the road, I guess. Okay, well, let's dive in. What I was hoping to do today, and as I was working with a few of our friends on helping their speaking business, a lot of it gets back to either the call that you get on where they're saying, okay, Dennis, we're down to 3 people, you and 2 other people. Why should we hire you? Or that call doesn't manifest in that exact same way. It's not a pre-booking call, but basically that discussion is happening without you in the room. And either way, whether we're getting the chance to verbalize it directly or whether we're having to do that through our marketing or through our bureau partners, we need to articulate in a strong enough manner why they need to hire us versus the competition. And so I've been playing around with this model in which we essentially, it's a 2-step answer to that. Step 1 is characterizing the problem that they're likely facing. Step 2 is characterizing the manner in which you are the right fit to solve that problem. So it's a little bit of a tension and release format, problem and solution format. Now here's the tricky part, or actually the opportunity, I should say. The more dramatic that we make both the problem and the solution, I believe it ups the ante in terms of our closing rate. So for example, if I said in this format, we're getting some background noise. Maybe Scotty, would you mind muting? It might be from the car, if you don't mind. Thanks, brother. Okay, so if you said the problem, let's say it was me talking about innovation, I said, hey, listen, you know, there are a lot of times when people don't come up with the most innovative answers, and wouldn't it be great if people were more creative? We all kind of know that, and I kind of help people come and get them more creative, and I help bring out innovation in a company. So that was following the format, but both of those were very undramatic. It was an undramatic problem and an undramatic solution. In contrast, I might say something like this. Organizations today are in the midst of massive upheaval, and they are besieged with competitive threats and dizzying speed and exponential complexity. And all the cost savings have already been extracted out. That's just the ante to play. And now companies are desperately seeking competitive advantage. Now, this is especially acute because new entrants are coming in from startups. The globalization of commerce has happened. Millennials are entering the workforce, which are making it more and more difficult to engage with. And so companies that I speak to all the time are feeling that the status quo is less sustainable than ever. And they realize that if they don't do something, if they fast forward a couple of years, despite the good records of the last 12 months, they may be in a world of hurt. So what I do is I help liberate this incredible creative capacity that lives inside the company right now, but likely is blocked. And studies have shown that just a 5% increase in creative capacity, which again is right there already, can lead to a 50% or more boost in revenue, profits, or share price. So I help companies reconnect with their creative roots, liberate their creative capacity in order to drive meaningful and sustainable results. So you see the difference between my two examples. One was, no drama. The other was high drama. They both said the same thing. Which one are you going to hire? So with that format, I thought we just, again, I'm not going to put anyone on the spot, anyone who wants to volunteer, to do that same thing. What's the giant problem that companies are facing, and how do you release that tension by your amazing solution? The only other comment I'd make is that if you can, in any way, shape, or form, map the work that you do to a macro trend that they're likely facing, I think it works. So things that I talked about are speed and complexity and changes in technology and globalization. Those are solved by innovation. That's a true statement. But they're probably also solved, Scotty, by great customer service. They're probably also solved, a number of other things. But my point is, I was creating the problem statement around giant things that they are for sure waking up in the middle of the night sweating about. So you want the meeting planner who's hearing all this, or the CEO who's hearing all this, saying, "Oh man, that's exactly what I've been saying all along. I've been having this problem for the last 6 months. I'm so glad Dennis is here to talk about it. I'm so glad JP can help me solve this problem." Okay, so format is problem, release, tension, resolution, and the more drama, the better. Who would like to give it? And then we'll get back.
I'll take a swing.
All right, Scotty, you're up.
All right, here we go. 74% of your customers are looking to leave for a better client experience. And currently in this hectic day and age, you really don't have time or a platform to train these people for the great experiences that they need to have. And, we can deliver the 6 time tested techniques that when your people use them, they'll be fearless when delivering spectacular customer service, and you'll see a measured increase in your client loyalty and your client retention.
Scotty, I thought that was terrific. We can all perhaps provide some comments on it. Only one thing I noticed that you might want to tweak is you immediately came and said 74%, which is a big stat, by the way, but they may not be experiencing that exact stat themselves. So if let's say, for example, they were 73%, then all of a sudden it loses the integrity of it. So you might say something like, if you just clarify it slightly, most companies or across the board today, we're seeing companies experiencing 74%, then you're not boxing yourself in the corner where you could be disproved.
Gotcha. Okay.
Other than that was killer. Any other comments for Scotty?
No.
Good. I get the job done.
Hey, you're hired. It's funny. Like, think about, Scotty, just while we're chatting, like, think about the customer service who person says, we've all had lousy customer service, and I try to make it a little bit better, and I can help out. Like, that's just a big dud. And yours was much more powerful. So great job.
Thank you.
So I'd like to take a shot at one.
Awesome.
So one of the things that I hear consistently from companies is that they'd like to be able to produce more ideas internally. They see great ideas coming out of places like Silicon Valley and Seattle. They're told if you want to have ideas, you've got to go hire a consultant. Why can't you come up with this? My board is asking me, why can't I come up with ideas? My team can't come up with ideas like my competition has, where they're making inroads on us. And so what I hear consistently from customers is they want to be able to create and foster more ideas internally. And the approach that I take to that is to be able to move away from this belief that ideas can only come from genius or be created in crisis or in some exotic faraway place under the guidance of expensive consultants, that there are actually techniques that we can use with your existing team in your existing environment to make creativity routine. And by the end of an hour together, I guarantee you that every member of your team that's present paying attention, and they will be paying attention, will come out with at least 5 new original ideas that are worth consideration.
Awesome, Dennis. So I'll give you a little bit of feedback. I love, just in the reverse order, I love the specifics around 5 new ideas. That was very cool, very tangible. One other thought, and I wouldn't mind you giving it a second try with two things in mind. One of them is the problem that you've zeroed in on is that people don't have enough ideas. And I might imagine a meeting planner saying, ideas, we got so many ideas, we got ideas coming out of the woodwork. You know, everyone's got an opinion, damn it, you know, blah, blah, blah. So if they don't connect with the problem, they might tune it out. So is there a way that you could tie the problem to something bigger? Like, for example, you know, companies are facing massive problems and there's disruption in their industry and they're struggling to keep up and they can't get the ideas together to solve those problems. So the point is just elevating taking the stakes up a notch, that the problem itself, like the CEO doesn't wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat saying, oh shit, I don't have enough ideas. They say, oh shit, my competition's crushing me. Or I'm going to lose all my people. So if you can just sort of elevate the stakes on the problem, I think that would be helpful. And the only other, there's more of a question is, you didn't use the word deconstruction. I was just curious about that.
Okay.
You don't have to. That was an honest question. You may be veering off of it, but because that's like your whole brand. I was curious why I didn't bring it up.
No, that's a good point. It didn't cross my mind at the moment, in the moment.
Awesome.
So so I guess the way I'd amp that up is to say, you know, as I talk with company leaders and work with people who are out really meeting with customers and going head to head against competition, you know, the consistent thing that I hear is that there's not just a need for new ideas. There's a need to make the ideas and creativity of the organization more relevant, and to be able to prioritize, pick the best ideas out of the pack, tear apart the opportunity through a process that I call deconstruction, and really put all the wood behind the best ideas that are going to have the greatest impact for the organization out in the field. So, you know, the big challenge that's facing the organization is certainly innovation and meeting that competitive threat and making sure that the organization isn't disrupted. The approach that I take to that is to deconstruct the existing ideas that are out there, the processes that you use to pick the top ideas and fund and prioritize those and really make them a very competitive tool for the organization. Cool.
I think it's getting better each time. And this is a good drill. I mean, I didn't mean to, no one put on the spot. We're just kind of helping each other here. And I would just practice it. You know, one other thing you might want to do, Dennis, is if you can introduce an element of surprise. And so the surprise would be it usually gets into the phrasing, most people think blank, but the truth is blank. Yeah. So for example, say companies are struggling with competitive threats and low employee engagement, and they have too many ideas, and they don't know what to do with them. And most people think that they just need more ideas. But the truth is they need a systematic approach to harnessing the best ideas. And that's what I bring to the surface. Okay. And so again, it's if the meeting planner or buyer on the other end hears, it's super important, you've got a solution, and you're not just a cliche solution like everybody else, but you've got this surprising insight that is counterintuitive and different, and unique. That's killer. You know, most people think it's X, but the truth is blank.
Great.
Josh, if I could suggest something, I think what I just heard in your feedback to Dennis that I think is something that is really strong, that really grabs and gets some traction, is the systematic approach. I love that because it says, look, I've been there, I know what's going on, and I can help you bring this discipline to your team. I think that's very strong language.
Thanks, man. Any other feedback for Dennis? Because then we want anyone else who wants to take a shot here is, and then we've got some other drills as well.
I thought it was really good. I remembered Josh corrected me one time when I was doing a presentation, and it was just wording at the end, and I changed mine. I really can't guarantee anything. You can maybe the same way that you told me to change it to across the board. at the end of my presentation, I told them, I guarantee you will see this. And I changed that to, you'll see some measured results. That way I didn't box myself in a corner again.
Yeah.
The word guarantee is a little bit of a loaded word. It sounds a little car salesman-y at times. And so you might want to say something like, participants will leave with an absolute minimum of 5 ideas. It just comes across a little less, I guarantee you're going to love it. She's a beauty, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But by the way, P.S. Dennis, your style is so not like that didn't come through like when you said it. Because you're
it's a great point, though.
Honest guy.
Yeah, I'm happy to go next, unless you wanted to, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I just was typing something out here. I'll rock it real quick. So the biggest problem that I'm seeing is that businesses that have been building their brands through social media in the last 3 to 5 years or even longer, they're plateauing. And their marketing messages are basically preaching to the crowd that they've been in front of for a long time. They can't seem to grow their brands further, and they have to pursue new revenue models. The way to do this is to create better human connections with your employees and your customers, creating compelling content, showcasing experience, connecting with others, infiltrating groups, and expanding thought leadership in both small tribes to drive revenue. We teach you how to turn your employees into more revenue streams. Think of it as change management in the form of marketing. We teach your executives, marketers, and sales teams to tap into their spheres of influence. By helping them build their brands, it'll elevate the company's brand, which leads to more brand awareness and more bottom line growth.
Cool. So I'll provide a little feedback too, Ryan. First of all, you're very articulate. Obviously, I know you typed some of that out, and is very, very thoughtful. Here's my challenge with it: I think you may be trying to say too much. So I think you got to dumb it down, perhaps, because you're like the super smart wizard genius, and like most people are not. And so when I heard that, I can't. If you said to me in 2 words, what is Ryan going to talk about? I'm not really sure. Is it branding? Is it employee engagement? Is it new revenue streams? I don't really know. So my suggestion would be: I thought you set up the problem really well. But if you maybe tease out one primary thing, like if they're going to walk away with one thing that you're going to do, what's that one thing? Because you may be trying to cover so much and it might get lost in translation.
Okay, thanks.
So just riffing out, you don't have to make it perfect words. Like if someone, what's the one thing you want audiences to walk away with? If they could just one thing, what is it?
It's that right now they're not controlling their brand, which means someone else is. Or it's just not. And again, what's challenging is that, we're going into a company, we're looking really at just that executive team or those of influence, not the frontline employees, not the people that are on the actual floors. And so that's a challenge in, more of a personal approach for the people who will become those change management agents. But essentially for the executive team, that nobody knows who they are outside of their company. It's them knowing that they can take control of that narrative and put themselves sort of in front of the company as opposed to just within it.
So you're talking about a personal brand, not the company brand. Like if it's Coca-Cola, you're not talking about the Coca-Cola brand. You're talking about like Jim who's SVP.
Right. It would be about, it'd be that, let's say that corporate brand is somewhat plateauing. And the way to break through that is to break through it by breaking out those individual thought leaders within the company. So
my suggestion would be, Ryan, to I would try to make it so it's like your 90-year-old grandma would understand it. Because even as you were saying that, again, I say this with great respect because I adore you. It's not a personal thing, but like, I don't understand when you were saying that. If it's let's say I'm Coca-Cola, are you saying my brand's going to be better against Pepsi? Or does it mean that if I'm an SVP at Coca-Cola, people are going to know who I am, which currently they don't? It's still hard for me to understand exactly what you're delivering. So if you I would say simplify is the real key word there.
Yeah. Okay.
The tricky thing too about it is that, again, I think someone might follow you if they're listening, but then when they go back and have to repeat it to the committee, if they can't get it in a crisp way, they're like, I think he talks about branding, but it might be a personal thing. I'm not really, you're gonna lose the deal. That's my only concern.
Gotcha.
Cool, man. JP, you want to give it a shot?
Sure. I'm assuming that we've had a full conversation where I would be asking questions to understand the pain, because that's certainly what I do, and I assume most people here would do. So, once I understand what the pain, the challenge is, I would play it back in something like this. organizations are facing significant change and challenge. Some call it disruption. It is disruption. Individuals experience that as pressure. And there's a whole bunch of consequences for when individuals experience it as pressure. Our work is to help people perform and lead more effectively under pressure. And so what we would do is we would deliver insights into the brain under pressure and tools so that people can manage more effectively. For instance, we know that for those who are in the top 10% of engagement, so one of the consequences for pressure and an inability to manage pressure is disengagement. We know that when somebody's in the top 10% of engagement, they give 25% more discretionary effort, more extra effort. So our work is all around helping individuals manage pressure so they can lead more effectively to get more discretionary effort from their folks to help deal with the change and challenge or the disruption that their organization is facing.
Awesome, man. I love it. One of the things I loved about it is crystal clear. It's like, I know you help people deal with pressure. That's it, which is awesome. It's very, very focused. Question for you. What happens to a company in the worst possible extreme if they don't fix this problem?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. And I would probably hook that onto that piece of organizations face change and disruption, people experiences pressure, and some of the consequences are that people leave or people show up, but they're not really present. And so if as an organization, we're going to be able to manage this disruption and change, it's going to require everyone needing to be giving extra effort. When I say extra effort, I actually don't mean more hours. Everyone's working tons of hours. It's more risk for an idea to get out of the harbor and take more personal risks. And so you're going to have people taking less risks or they're just not showing up. So there's both a disengagement, people leaving, and then people not taking risks.
So I'm going to just keep pressing on this one because I think it's awesome, great for everybody too. So if they don't stick around, they quit, they don't show up, or they show up and they're not fully engaged, or they don't take enough risks, then what? So what's the consequence to the company if this problem doesn't get solved? Imagine that they just totally suck, they never address it, never solve the problem. It's 3 years from now, the company is in just a fucking fire pit. What happened? What happened? What's the worst thing that happens?
Sure. Well, I mean, innovation clearly goes down. We know that. And you're not able to deal with the change and challenge and the disruption. And so, essentially, and we could use examples, organizations, kind of go away. So not just people go away, but organizations go away.
JP, that is awesome because now you're getting to an existential threat. Nothing is more scary than an existential threat. In other words, if the meeting planner is like, if my people don't show up and they're not fully engaged, all right, I can live with that. That's probably happening already right now. If this problem doesn't get solved, this means that the competition is going to beat you to the punches, could dramatically impact shareholder price. Senior executives could be changed out by the board. Brand loyalty could erode in an instant. And you could be one of those case studies that everyone talks about in business schools instead of the thriving company you are today. So the point is, you just keep upping the stakes on there's a problem. And let me tell you let me paint the picture for you vividly of what happens if this problem doesn't get fixed. So you're creating so much tension. And then you're like, I'm the expert in solving this problem. I help depressurize your organization, which means that engagement goes up, people show up, risk taking is there, and you're going to be able to survive these turbulent times. So the more, I appreciate you going with me on that, JP, because we're going like those survival gut feeling instincts, that closes deals. So if you take them way down there, like, oh gosh, I can feel the agony of this problem, and now you're the one to come in and solve the problem, man, I need that guy. I don't need this other speaker. I need JP.
Yeah, you know what I really like about that is it moves it from kind of my expertise to, as you say, to their existential threat, to the big challenges they care about in a much more concrete way. Because as you described that, I'm thinking absolutely, I can absolutely see and why that would be meaningful to them. So I really like that. It's great feedback, Josh. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, thank you, guys, and I appreciate everyone rolling with that. Hey, Josh Schneider, good to see you, brother. I'm glad you're with us. We're just doing some drills today. We're gonna make it interactive. So I'm gonna switch to the next one, and then we can all participate in ideas. We're just doing some drills and giving each other feedback. Okay, so the next drill I had for you was, And it all kind of teases around the same issue, but and I've asked this at boot camp. What's the transformation that you create? So today, for example, I'm going on stage later this afternoon in LA, and there's going to be 500 executives, and I'm coming on, and hour later, I'm off the stage. How are those people different? What's the transformation that I create? And so similarly, that's the question for the group here. Whoever would like to take the first shot, what's the transformation that you create in the audiences that hear your keynote? Anyone want to give it a shot? Well, I'll start just to kind of kick us around and love anyone's feedback. Again, but I would say something like this. Most people believe that they are either born, they're born creative or not creative. And so what I do is, first of all, help them reconnect with the research, which is crystal clear that all of us as human beings are hardwired to be creative. It's our natural state. I also share with them exactly what happens, and they connect with this if they fully embrace innovation, and frankly, what happens when they don't. What does that mean to their career, their company, and their future? And then I give them a specific set of tools so they are armed for battle. So they're not only inspired and energized and fired up, which they will be, but they're going to walk away with practical tools that will drive meaningful impact in the months and years to come. So it's the intersection of energizing and actionable. They're going to connect with the importance of it. They're going to know it's within their grasp. It's totally accessible. And they're going to walk off armed for battle, ready to take on the challenges in better ways.
Yeah, that's strong, Josh. I'm happy to go next if
awesome.
Yeah. So the transformation that people would walk out of, I think there's really two pieces. One is they'll understand deep insight into human behavior. We're going to challenge people to become students of human behavior. And from that insight, we're also going to help them build concrete tools to manage pressure more effectively. And the outcome is really to be an exceptional leader. So our work, we survey 40,000 people a month, and it's all around what does it take to be an exceptional leader in this age of disruption. And so they're going to walk away with real insight and then real specific tools so that they can be that exceptional leader that's going to help this organization manage disruption.
Killer. I have no real meaningful feedback on it. I thought it was specific. It was clear. You talked about where they're starting and where they're getting to. And you also were able to inject some of your expertise in it, which created additional credibility. I thought it was great. Any other feedback for JP?
I like the credibility that he's interviewing 40,000 people per month. Like that perked my ears, so it's not just some random fact that's pulled out. So that I like that part.
Thanks,
totally
Ryan.
Agree. Cool. Would anyone else like to give it a shot before we move on to our next drill?
Well, I'll throw myself under the bus again, just kind of playing with this in the name of simplicity. One of the biggest challenges that I feel are holding back companies is their employees' ability to explain who they are and what they do. Because your employees are direct ambassadors, whether you want to realize it or not. After this talk, after this workshop, whatever, there will be a crystal clear understanding for people to explain what they do, where they work. So if you ask any random employee at this point, what do you do at your job? You're most likely going to get a confused answer that's not necessarily on brand. Empowering this your audience or your employees with this specific method, this 313 method, will not only allow employees to describe who they are and what they do, but they'll be able to do it in 3 sentences, in 1 sentence, and 3 words. And as an employer, the more control you have or influence over how your employees are communicating about what you're doing, better you can build your brand ambassadors and get a further reach into a market that you haven't tapped into. Something like that.
I think you're jamming, Ryan. I think there's so many good things there. As you know, I'm a huge fan of your 313 model. So one suggestion, maybe even bring that up a little bit earlier. Say, listen, what we've learned is that most people can't communicate even something as basic as what they do and why they do it. So we've developed a specific model that I'll share. So your audience will be able to learn a simple step-by-step process, this model called 313, in which when they go to communicate an idea next time, to win the deal, to share with colleagues, to recruit, to be an ambassador of the brand. Now they have a specific format that they can use to communicate effectively.
I like that.
So, again, I think it was awesome. You're right on point on it. I think it just, consolidate a little bit and it's good to go.
Yeah, and I'll say this, Ryan. And this is not a critique of the first thing you said, on our call, but that sounded way more natural. And I like the tempo as well. And I realized the first time you're just trying to kind of work it in real time. So I totally get that. But this second time, it just felt like I got it in a much more clear way. And I do like the idea of the 313 because that sounds really concrete to me. The only thing I would say is when you said where they work and what they do, is there another piece there? Maybe there just is. Maybe there is. Where they work, what they do, and the value. Kind of the difference they make. That I didn't hear that. Maybe that's you would say that, et cetera, in other places and times. But that to me is what would grab me as an owner. I think, wow, my people, they can in 313 or whatever the concrete steps are, communicate very clearly who they are, what they do, but the difference they make. So that might be the only feedback I'd offer.
I like that. Thank you.
Hey, Josh. Got to give a lot of credit to Connor if he's in there anywhere, because in his expertise in designing the website over the last 8 weeks with me, he put this inside the website. What transformation does Scotty create? So wanted to give him a little shout out for having me focus on that question also. That's why I didn't jump in there and go first.
It's awesome, man. Thanks for saying that. I agree. Connor is the best. He's a rock star.
Absolutely.
So, Josh, a quick question for you. When you're talking about the transformation, again, I'm thinking of the actual audience members or the employees, and then you have the owners of the employee, right? To where are you really trying to play it to both of them, or is this more of or are they two different approaches, right? Like if you're going to convince the event planner who's essentially in that same bucket as the person who's saying yes, thumbs up, versus the audience, which might be a slightly different crowd. Are you trying to blend them, or are you trying to make them two independent?
I'm so glad you asked that, Ryan. It's a great question. Obviously, it's going to be situational, so it depends on the context of the planner and all that. But generally speaking, I think you want to share the transformation that the organization will benefit through the transformation that you create in the audience. In other words, if the answer was, I help people feel more joy in their lives, that's less saleable than because I help people connect with more joy in their lives, we improve productivity and creativity, and the morale goes up and people have a higher level of employee engagement. So whatever the way that whatever the why, the transformation you create, any way that you can tie it back to that meeting planner's core key metrics, because the meeting planner is going to go sell it to the SVP or whatever. So let's say it's a big sales conference. And if what your topic was something really soft, which it isn't, by the way, but it was like creating joy, you might say, I help salespeople do something they've never even thought before, which is create joy. But as a result, that's not just for inviting unicorns to work on a rainbow. The reason we do that is because if they have more joy, they close more deals. And if you close more deals, you move the needle in terms of revenue. So I think, again, you want to tie the what you're doing to those human beings in the audience back to the overall organizational objectives, because that's what's going to get them to close more deals.
Thank you. That's helpful.
No sweat. Cool. All right, let's do one more if anyone's game. My next question for you is this. Cool. So I'm going to do a different question. Who said that? I didn't see it.
Okay.
Oh,
Josh.
Awesome, Josh. All right. Here's a question for you, my friend. So here the question is, all right, we're down to 3 people. We've already chosen our category. You don't need to sell us on the category. We already know, the transformation that we want to create, but why you? You're up against 2 of your direct competitors. Same fee, budget's not an issue. Everything's good. Just we're down to 3 people. Good on budget, good on topic. Josh, why you?
It's a good question, and I think that there's little doubt that everybody's going to be bringing a creative idea and a good approach, but with my age, 50% of your workforce is already, as you stated, millennials. And so 50% of your workforce is looking for something that is fresh, that is looking for something that's a different approach to maybe something that they've heard or a different case study. And so being able to not only resonate with them, but also the research that we'll unveil and showcase in the session will connect with the older audience as well.
I thought it was a good starting point, Josh. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I'll tell you a couple of things you did really well. First of all, you were sort of selectively polarizing, and it was smart because you were thinking about who's your competition. So the underlying message was, look, why in the world would you want a 58-year-old to come in and talk to you about millennials? Like, I don't need to talk to you. I am a millennial. And so the fact that you're putting yourself in that category automatically differentiates you from somebody who perhaps is older that may not have the same perspective as you. So I thought that was really good. The other thing is you mentioned research. Again, you may want to tease out a little bit more like, hey, for every event I do a minimum of 8 hours of research on the organization and the industry, and I bring proprietary research to the table. Again, that would be great because it's something that others wouldn't do. So great start, Josh. I think the whole key here is sharing what makes you different. What will you do?
Yeah.
What do you bring to the party that others will not? So on the other hand, you didn't say this, by the way, but if you said, I'm very energizing and I really care about my clients, nothing wrong with that. That's great, as should everybody. But you could pull your name off and slap your competitor's name on there, and that point would still hold true. But if you say, right. Unlike most millennial speakers who aren't even millennials, I bring this to the party, that's great because it puts you in more in a unique category.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other comments for Josh?
Yeah, I'll give a comment. Now, maybe you've already identified, Josh, that in that group, there are more millennials in the audience. But my worry would be that if that wasn't the case, like if there was just a normal distribution, let's say, of an audience, they might go, well, so what about the people who are non-millennials? So in some ways, I feel like you're creating a bit of a barrier. That's the main reason, because I got to believe there's a whole bunch of other great reasons why you would rock with that specific audience, not just because of your age. That makes sense. So that would be my one caution around using that. When Josh said, hey, I do 8 hours or whatever it is of research on a group, I'm like, that's fantastic. Maybe I would be a little worried about using your age as the main selling point, because they'll already intuit that. They'll see you they know that you're a millennial. So I think they'll already get that, but I think it's the other stuff that you bring, at least from my point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's good. Thank you.
JP, I'd agree with you. I'd even add to it and say, so many speakers right now, and you wouldn't necessarily use this language, but so many speakers right now, they get hired for a speech, they have a quick conversation, they come in, they deliver a canned talk, and then they go home. The difference with you, Josh, is that it's an entire process and journey that you're going to be with them from now through long after that keynote that you deliver 3 months from now. So that includes certainly this call, but several other calls after this to really dive in and understand, in detail what it is they're looking to achieve, everything about what's going on with the organization, their goals, where they're succeeding, where they're failing, where the soft spots are, all the research that you're going to do and how you're going to hand select the right stories and lessons and experiences to share, and then all the follow-up that goes into it afterwards. So you're not just going to fly and show up on stage and leave, but not only you're going to spend time there on site talking to attendees and executives, but you're going to follow up in the days and weeks after to make sure there's no additional questions, to see if there's anything else you can help with or clarify. And of course, that's also, besides closing the deal for you, that's somewhat self-serving too, because there may be other conferences, there may be other opportunities that you uncover as part of this process, and perhaps even something else you could sell besides a keynote as a result. So when the schedule's not always so packed, that's just a really great use of time to sell additional stuff and make a client pick you in the first place.
One little trick, and I'd love for someone else to go too, is if you at some point in there say a lot of speakers do blank, and it's sort of like putting them down without putting them down. You don't want to be critical. So you might say like a lot of speakers just show up and recite their lines. They're kind of like a wind-up doll speaker. And listen, I respect that. I'm sure they practice a lot. I'm sure they've got interesting content. But what I do is different. I custom craft every keynote so that it's specific to and relevant to that audience. A lot of speakers use big cliche examples like Netflix and Apple. And nothing wrong with them, but we already know how great they are. What I do is I go and look all over the globe and peek underneath the rocks and bring unique and fresh stories that no one's ever heard of, because those are the memorable ones. Those are the ones that move the needle. A lot of speakers do blank, but what I do is blank. Anyone else want to give it a shot?
Yeah, let me just real quick feedback for Josh. I think maybe you're a little bit of your own personal story. Like, have you been a millennial that's been disengaged in the company? Like, because Josh, I was watching some of your talks and the intros that some of these people gave. They're like, he is one of us. He has been there. He has done that. And that I was like, okay, that's a connection. So instead of saying I'm a millennial, it'd be more powerful for me if like, look, I went through 6 jobs in 4 months. I hated this. I did this, and that's what inspired me. Like that, that's me. I'm talking to them. That's more powerful. And then I really like Josh's use of the combination between actionable items and entertainment. So I think that just that can be spun so many different ways. But I think that's a great actionable and entertainment, because so many people have actionable stuff, but they're just so fucking boring. And it's like that combo, I think, is a nice differentiating factor.
Great feedback.
Well, hey, Josh, I'll give it a
so
swing.
Josh's, I was just going to ask real quick, is this, because this stuff to me, I'm like, oh yeah, isn't everybody doing that? Or is not everybody doing that?
Doing what?
Obviously I've been to the boot camp twice, so I've heard this and this type of detail. Like, is it rare to see other speakers wanting to walk somebody through this process, and even similar to what it is that you do with your clients?
Yeah, it's not as common as you think, which again gets back to my overriding our industry people. And at the time, if you're going to be a professional athlete or a musician, you take your craft really seriously. And a lot of speakers don't. A lot of speakers say, I'm really successful elsewhere, gave a great toast at my aunt's wedding, and I'm going to be a speaker. And they don't treat it with the same type of rigor that we're handling here today. So you may find that from others, like in our little family here, but the average person you're competing against, no. They're not going to have thoughtful answers in the same way. And the way I look at all this, too, by the way, is that some speeches you're going to win no matter what. Some speeches you're going to lose no matter what. But then there's the ones in the middle. And if we can affect the outcome in those, and then if you ramp up volume, so you got lots of inbound activity, and you can affect the outcome in the middle, that really moves the needle overall when you look at an annual or multi-annual speaking business.
Good. That's good. Thank you.
Sure. Scott, do you want to give it a shot? Is that what you're going to say?
Sure, I'll give it a swing, Coach.
Cool.
There are a lot of speakers out there that discuss the topic customer service. I've taken over 250,000 customer service calls, and I've trained over 3,000 customer service agents. And I've had a lot of real life experiences, and I can help shape those and customize those for you and your team, so that when I leave, they will have a specific platform where they can deliver the 6 time-tested techniques that will allow them to deliver spectacular customer service, which will let you the opportunity to see a measured increase in your client loyalty and your client retention.
Yeah, so Scotty, that was so good, because this is what I love. Nobody else can say they've taken 250,000 phone calls, at least to my knowledge, Like, so you instantly separated yourself from the competitive pack. They're going to write that number down and circle it with red pen, and like that's going to be a big differentiator when making the decision. So I thought that was great. You focused on something that was specific and unique to you that others could not claim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other feedback for Scotty?
Yeah, I like the 6 something or others, although I don't know if it was teased out enough. Like that is there a name for it? Is it your sort of a specific methodology? I think you were close. In general speaking, it's going to give them the ability to do these 6 things, but maybe you could bring that up a little bit closer, or make it be like, okay, that's something tangible. That was just one small thing to maybe define a little bit more.
Got you. Thank you.
Do you have a name for it, or is it the 6-pack method, or I don't know?
No, it's the 6 time-tested techniques that will allow you to deliver spectacular customer service. In the presentation, I give them the nickname of Saints, SAINTS, to remember them, but I don't go over them specifically until I talk to the client.
Cool.
Hey, we're gonna wrap up with some questions up. But Scotty, just before I forget, I love the 6 time tested techniques, but it makes me think: is that if it's time tested, is it new? And so if my only slight pause, just a slight one, not a big one, is does the meeting planner say, well, time tested, I want something fresh and new and different. So I wonder if you could insert a word like the 6 surprising yet time tested principles, or the 6 time tested principles that nobody knows, or something like that. I have to think about the exact words, but insert something so the person says, wow, it's time tested, great, that's a cool thing, but like this is new information. He's not going to repeat a platitude that I heard 16 years ago.
I understood. I know exactly where you're going. Let me try to find that word over the next before the next class.
Cool. Well, we can riff on it too. Shoot me an email.
Yeah.
I'm happy to brainstorm
Yeah.
with you. That just might be a little teeny tweak. Because what we're trying to do in all of this is say, are there any warning signs that a meeting planner would say, no thanks? Even wrongfully say no thanks. Yeah. And so if they say, I've already heard it before because it's time tested, I just don't want them to give any reason to say no thanks.
Well said.
Cool, man. All right, so we have about 10 minutes or so left. Any questions? We wanted to just kind of do a free form. Anything that's on your mind, anything that we can answer or our group can answer on your behalf?
Hey, as a new guy, I was hoping to take some veteran advice. What kind, and hopefully I put this in the right context. What kind of time frame should I give the meeting planner to respond back to me? I.e., if their meeting is, the presentation is, July 15th. When should my cutoff date be? Any guidelines to help me out?
Just so I understand the question, Scott, you're saying you're waiting to hear if you're going to get a job?
Correct. Waiting to hear if I get a job. They're still trying to make a decision. What's my pushback on, when my drop dead date should be? Any guidance?
Well, a couple of things that you can do to create urgency. One is you might say, like, let's say you've had a conversation and said, we have a committee meeting next Tuesday, and you don't hear from them. You might give them a call Thursday. Hey, how was the committee meeting? Anything I can answer? Any follow-ups that you need? So you're calling in the sense of service and being helpful. If it's dragging out, one thing we've done to spur activity is we'll say something like, hey, I know your date is June 14th. We're getting a lot of other interest for that date. And before another offer comes in, I just wanted to reach out and get a sense from you on how things are going. Do you think this is still a viable opportunity? Should I continue to hold it on the calendar? So you can inject sort of that fear of missing out, which might spur them toward a decision. The other thing you could also do is you could say, hey, I know we're getting down the calendar here. I just want to make sure I have enough time to really deeply prepare and do enough research so I can make this awesome. When do you think you might have a decision? Because the more time I get in preparation, the more impactful I can be. Those are some things you might spur it along. I don't know if you're going to have a drop dead decision necessarily. It's up to you, but those are things that you might do to create urgency.
Okay.
Cool, man. Other questions, thoughts, observations, complaints?
Well, I'll say this. I love that you put us on the spot and made us think in this moment about how we're approaching these 3 questions. I think it was useful for me to hear others, and then it was useful for me to have to just do it without any preparation. And I love the feedback. So I think this was a highly valuable use of time. How do you feel with that today, Josh?
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Ryan, I think we're getting some feedback. Would you mind just muting unless you had a question or something? Thanks, brother. Yeah, that's way better. Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts?
I echo JP's sentiments. It was nice to listen, and it was good to be put on the spot. The more you do the role playing, the better prepared you are for those questions when they come out of left field for you.
Yeah, totally.
I had one. This Krister, I enjoyed it as well. I think I had one minor point of feedback would be if the format is going to be like this, and I think it's a great format. Maybe just a heads up. I would have made sure that I was in a place that I wouldn't have any background noise. I was kind of just in a place where I could mostly just listen today.
That's great feedback, Krister. And hi, I didn't even see that. I'm so sorry. Otherwise, I would have engaged you more. I apologize, brother.
Well, I couldn't because I had background noise most of the time.
Well, we'll do that next time. All right.
Josh, I got a quick content question.
Sure.
When I know you said you've been doing not a lot more of, but workshops, and I'm having some people kind of want like 2.5 hour sessions. do you kind of blow everything up out of the keynote or expand it? Or do you kind of do a traditional part and then take one area, one aspect, go really deep and big, and then finish up? What have you found be successful?
So there's several different models. So I'll show you what I do, but again, just to be clear, it's not like the only right answer.
Right.
Disclaimer. What I generally do is if I have 2 or 3 hours, I will do a keynote first, basically, which is interactive. But to me, that's like setting the stage. It's getting everybody in the right mindset. It's getting them leaning into the content. It's giving them a little tease. And so, and to me, then you follow a keynote with an immediate workshop right after. It's a good 1-2 punch. Because you've sort of, they're inspired, they're feeling good, they're immersed in it, they see the importance of it, and now you can take them into some hands-on exercises to which they can build some muscle memory and really get engaged and participate in the content, not just absorb it. So that's the general format I like. Like if it was a 3-hour block, I'd do an hour keynote and then a 2-hour workshop immediately follow. And then of course at the end, instead of just saying, okay, bye dudes, thank you, try to end with a powerful story, just like you would in a keynote, so that they're ending with a big exclamation point. They're not ending with like a ...
Good. Awesome. Thank you. Makes sense.
Sure.
Josh, I've got a quick question for you from the speaker's reel perspective. So, doing a major audit on all of the video I have, I don't know if I've got all the content that I need for like the big stage presence. And so I was looking at some other ones, and the question is it better to have no speaker's reel until I can be at that level? Or as a middle ground, I'm looking at actually scripting something out to where it's more of a me on a green screen so I can manipulate the background, but then basically almost sort of tell my story with little small snippets of high quality videos as an overall. So the question is it worth that effort to do more of a narrated and curated with small examples of speaking? Or is it better to just wait until I've got something that is the full Monty from the speaker's reel perspective?
What's your timing on the full Monty?
Probably longer, probably 6 months to a year, really. I mean, whether I'm leveraging, your concept of helping to build the stage, but it's that conundrum. It's hard to get on that 3,000 person stage with all the setup without that sort of proof. So I've got some, my TEDx talks and some other things that in short snippets will work, but that longer thought out process, which I believe is valuable, I just don't have. Or I have a really good one, but it doesn't show the audience. It was a great stage, but it's just I didn't have the multiple angles on it. So the idea is more of explaining what I do, what I'm all about, sort of the methodology, but it's not going to be the cookie cutter example of, say, what they would see on stage when they hire. So I don't know if it's worthwhile to do that effort so that when they go to the website, they'll see me, they'll meet me, and they'll get a feel for my energy on stage, or is it just like scrap it and wait until it's a one-time shot? I'm not sure.
Good question. So look, if it was going to be 2 months, I'd tell you to wait, because then it's, why do the interim step? But if you think it's a 6 month or a year out, I think you got to have something, because having nothing is very difficult to sell a high-end speech. So I don't mind that interview concept. Is it ideal? No, we'd rather see you on a 3,000 person stage, but you got to have something that is indicative of your energy and the content and such. I think Scotty did an excellent one. Scotty put together this one that was beautifully shot. It's super high quality. It makes him like a total badass. And he doesn't have a reel of people, of him in front of 5,000 folks on the stage, but he stitched it together in a very clear professional way, which I think will be effective. So one suggestion, Ryan, would be to check out Scotty's video. I thought he did a great job. And I don't mind that as an interim step, especially if you do have some shots of you in a big stage. Even though you can't see the audience, the fact that you're on the stage and you're delivering great content would be helpful. So I would do the interim step if you think it's going to be 6 months to a year.
Okay.
Great. All right, everybody. Well, listen, wishing you all the best. As always, any way that I or my team can be helpful, we're here for you. Thanks for being part of the 3-Ring Circus family, and let's keep crushing it out there.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Everyone.
all.
Good to meet you all.